out today, you were probably wondering, is that my kid's babysitter? Or my daughter's college roommate? We're the fresh faces of the workplace. You probably know who we are, and you probably know how you feel about us. Hence why I'm here today. Who are millennials compared to the past generations? How can you attract us? How can you retain us? And how can you create a workplace where every generation feels heard, needed, and relevant? One reason that we struggle with insecurity and we want things now is that we see that life could end at any moment. As youngsters, our childlike innocence of our world being safe, it tumbled along with the Twin Towers, thus eroding our sense of protection and security. School shootings, public shootings, and bombings, all of this is happening all over the world, in our own backyards. Now, this shapes how we think and how we act. Now, this hasn't just shaped how my generation lives. This has shaped how all generations are living. I want you to think about air travel, for example. Now, we think nothing of going through security barefoot with a bag of 3-ounce liquid bottles. For our parents' generation, they feared the plane might crash. For my generation, we fear someone might crash the plane. These events have shaped us. It sometimes only takes one event to shape a person. As I spoke about earlier, when I auditioned for the Glee project, I didn't have a story, so I didn't make the cut. Well, 2 years later, I got my story. Now, before this pivotal story happened to me, remember, I was living in a really, really nice bubble. I mean, I had the usual teenage and college angst, but I was doing all right. Well, on May 22nd, 2013, the bubble popped. In 10 minutes, I matured far beyond my 22 years of life. I had just graduated from Loyola University in New Orleans, and I was back at home in Texas, spending some time with my parents before I would go back to New Orleans and begin my life in the real world as a college graduate. My mother, who at the time was 51 and very healthy, we were walking the neighborhood. Everything was fine. Life was good. And then towards the end of the walk, my mom said she didn't feel well. She went across the street, she laid down on the grass, and instantly her eyes rolled into the back of her head. She started shaking, foaming at the mouth, and stopped breathing. My mother had gone into sudden cardiac death right in front of me. I picked up her phone, I called 911, and I flagged down some cars. For the next 10 minutes, 3 people alternated doing CPR. I was in shock at what had just happened. Moments before, everything was fine. Life was great. And instantly, it all changed. Those 10 minutes were pivotal for me. They made me feel both horribly weak and incredibly strong. They shaped me into who I am today. And at the end of those 10 minutes, when the paramedics finally arrived, they were able to shock my mom back to life. My mom spent 8 days in the hospital where she was given a permanent defibrillator, and now she is doing fine. The doctors say she's a miracle, and I could not agree more. So, what I learned from this experience is, 1, life is precious. 2, people can mature instantly. It doesn't always require age. And 3, women in my family are hard to kill. I asked millennials how important being affirmed was in the workplace, and 99% of millennials said they want to be affirmed. 99%. I know, we're all sitting here thinking, how can I hire that 1%? But as you see, your chances are about 1%.